We've got somebody from Tobago. Do you know
Right.
any other
Well,
long distance people?
Mway's from Canada, but that's not such a long distance.
It's a long distance, it is. Can't walk there.
Right.
Okay. So, okay, you can introduce me and I'll introduce you.
So I want to introduce my illustrious wife, Gayla. You know, Gayla is an artist in all mediums. It's amazing. And she was an interior designer starting in 1960. In 1968, she met Baba Ramdas and lived with him one whole summer at his place up in New Hampshire. And lots of well-known spiritual people came there. One of them was Dalu, who at that time was probably the only Chinese master who was willing to teach non-Chinese people. And he was pretty amazing. His I-Ching book, which is out of print, is wonderful. He's got two of them, actually. And so she learned Tai Chi from him and Qigong. And then I would say it was a couple years later, 71 or something, she went to Europe because she was studying with Pir Vilayat Khan and went to Sufi summer camp there. And she met European geomancers. And so then she realized that she could put together the geomancy and the Tai Chi and Qigong that she was using. And of course, nobody knew in the States about feng shui then except for Chinese citizens who were using it, I'm sure. So Gayla put that whole energy work into her interior design. She also studied Tai Chi with Trimling and Al Wong, and she became a certified Tai Chi teacher. She really was the first non-Asian to practice feng shui in the United States. And in fact, when she went to China with Al Wong to a monastery there, she knew where everything was and what was going on, even though it was like behind another building. Because, you know, back in the 1880s, there was a minister actually who had gone to China, and he started studying feng shui, and he wrote a book. It's probably the first book on feng shui in English. And his name was the Reverend M. Yates. And Gayla's name, is Yates.
Meredith Yates.
Meredith Yates.
And for many, many years, I just used my middle name, Meredith, and I used to sign it always, M. Yates.
Right.
And so what's the coincidence? He was in Shanghai in 1868. And when I got to China, I just felt like I knew where everything. I could say, if you go behind that building, there'll be this statue, and over there's a well, and I just told everybody where everything was, and they were going, whoa, what's going on here? So, past lives.
So Gayla designed this whole show, and those of you who've been in my classes can easily tell it's quite an upgrade for my ability to do that.
And we're going to be doing this show together, the intro, but for the future courses, Barry is the scholar. I mean, I've used the I-Ching since the 60s, and I love the I-Ching, and I have an energetic connection with it, as you'll see through the slideshow. But when it gets into the scholarly stuff, he's the master for sure. To introduce Barry, Barry started his life career path as a physicist, and then became a lieutenant diver in the Navy. And after 3 terms in Vietnam, he had a near-death experience, and that set him on a whole new course. He went to India for 2 years and sat in meditation and learned homeopathy and healed himself of his Agent Orange and his traumas and so many things. Became very interested in, consequently, in self-help and energy psychology. And he had the good fortune to meet up with Professor Lin Yun, who is world-renowned I-Ching scholar and feng shui master. In fact, Professor Lin Yun really put feng shui on the map. When I was doing it back in the 70s, nobody knew what it was. thanks to Professor Lin Yun, in the 80s, it's mid 80s it was, when it started to get known and books started to come out like mushrooms after a spring rain. And you started to hear about, you know, feng shui on the back of, oh, I don't know, that big magazine, never mind, doesn't matter. But it started to get into the mass media is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here.
Yeah, we were on Dateline NBC, actually.
Yes, you were.
Stephen and Edgar and I.
Yeah. And then Professor Lin Yun asked Stephen and Barry and Edgar to found the BTB, Professional Feng Shui Training in New York at the New York Open Center, which has been going to this day. And it's just recently now that the Open Center is starting to having some changes, and it became clear that those programs might not endure there in brick and mortar. So here we are online. Mm-hmm. And we have a school, it's called Transformational Life Learning. And you're all familiar with our URL, transformationonline.org. So from there, I think we're on to this.
I think we're going to screen share now.
Okay, here we go.
Get my cursor.
Thank you. I hope these introductions, we know a lot of you know us, but it kind of also gives new people coming on time to get on, to be here, so they don't miss out on the actual slideshow.
We're going to move this over to here.
Okay,
there.
Great.
Okay, good.
Excellent.
Okay. So
here we are. Oh, this is your reading list. Not really. But Barry, this is from our library right here.
Behind us. You probably saw it behind us when we were.
And Barry's read all of these books and then some. And he understands them all. It's quite amazing, actually. And we do have one book we recommend, which is the third one from the left. I believe that's the right one.
That's, no, that's not. That's Stephen.
Oh,
that's Stephen Karcher, which is a wonderful book because he translates all the Chinese characters into as many meanings as they could possibly have. With the I Ching, it's really difficult to translate. It's difficult to translate Chinese because when a Chinese person sees a character, it triggers in their mind a lot of different meanings.
Yep.
And so when you're reading the I Ching as Chinese person, then that happens. And so all kinds of things that we as Westerners, well, there may be a few Chinese people on here, I don't know, but we don't get that. Our minds don't work that way, actually. We have either or minds instead of both and minds, which we have to change. So, so Stephen Karcher's book is really good because when you do a divination, you read through it, you can let the meanings kind of pop in your mind out of the many possibilities. Some of them are just going to pop in your mind, but we're recommending the Al Wong book, which I think I have out. It's not in here right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, no, here it is. This one, right? It's the one that's kind of a bluish color, and it says the complete I Ching on it. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over from the left. Okay, let's go on.
You've got a link to it anyway.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you a story about the I Ching. It's one of the, I mean, I had been doing I Ching when this happened already for 20 years.
What year was this?
This was like 1992, I think. And I started the I Ching in 1970. So I was going on a trip with Professor Lin to China. And I decided to do an I Ching reading about what would happen on the trip. So I did my divination using his 6-coin method, which we'll talk about later. And the reading said that we could have a problem, and one of the possibilities was an airplane crashing. And that's because it was Li, the trigram Li, which I'll talk about in the training, had a negative aspect to it. Okay, so I didn't think much of it, you know. And we went to China, and we're traveling around, and we went to the Dunhuang Caves, which is out in the Taklamakan Desert. And so we're traveling to go to the next stop. We stop in the desert itself and go riding on camels.
Barry, is that you on the second camel?
No, I'm the guy in the blue leading everybody. No, or maybe I'm the back guy. I don't know. So yeah, we actually rode camels. So in the desert. So we get to our location, the hotel where we're going to fly from the next day, the next night, I think it was, and we find out that we're going to fly in an airplane. It's very small, and it's actually not qualified for night flying, and we're going to fly at night. So I told Professor Lin about my I-Ching reading, and he went, wow, you know, and Professor Chen. So they had a lot of connections in China, so they were able to call the head of the army, actually, and get a new plane for us. So then we drove back about 6 hours to another airport to take this real plane, and we flew to our next location. And about a day or two later, we heard the news that that plane actually did crash, and everyone passed away on that airplane. So actually, the I-Ching saved my life and the lives of everybody on that trip. So on the left, you can see the symbol for the I-Ching. It's got the moon, the sun over the moon. Okay, so we found this beautiful Tai Chi symbol that expresses this, how the I-Ching it's called the Book of Changes in English, but it's really about the book of how changes occur in the constantly unchanging background. Okay, so it's about changing, it's about unchanging, and it's about relationships. So there's a relationship of the sun to the moon, to the stars, to the earth, and even to us, right? And now with science and mathematics, we can actually track all those relationships. So using an ephemeris, I can tell you where a star or the sun or the moon is going to be in the future in relation to me. So think about that. I can predict the future. Well, the I-Ching works the same way, because the I-Ching is actually a mathematical equation. So I'll talk about that as we go on, okay?
So it's not as simple as it looks. First of all, we're all very familiar with the symbol. We've seen it on tattoos and jewelry, surfboards, all over the place. And it's one of the most universal symbols, and a lot of people have picked up on that aspect of it, but we usually see it in flat, one-dimensionally. And this particular illustration gives a hint that at least it's more than one-dimensional. It's round, but it's much more than that. It isn't just round. It is the whole cosmos, and it's actually, the black, of course, is yin, and the white, of course, is yang. But what people don't really usually understand is that the white yin dot that exists within the yang, the white yang dot that exists within the yin, sorry about that, is constantly expanding. The yang is overtaking the yin, and the same is happening with the yin overtaking the yang, that they're constantly in motion, and one going into the other and back and forth, and it's energetic, it's energy moving. You'll see in another slide that says it even better, maybe the next one. No. Okay, not the next one. This is a slide that I came across, and obviously is created by a very professional artist. And so to the untrained eye, one might assume that this is a very accurate rendition of the I Ching. It's anything but. First of all, yin and yang are never separated. It's not flat. It's not holes with energy jumping back and forth. That's not what it's about. So by the time the slideshow's over, when you see something like this, you'll go, good artist, but doesn't have a clue. Okay, next.
Okay.
Now, oh, we just want to remind you that in China, people always say yin yang. They never say yin and yang. And why? Anybody got the answer? It's because they are inseparable.
Geo had the answer. Yeah.
Oh, good. Yay. All right. Good.
Okay.
And only Geo knows if it was the right one or not. This is a much better rendition of yin and yang. Much better. Obviously, you can't put the whole sky into a symbol, although that's what the yin yang is, really. It's the constant movement of energy. In this sky picture, you can see one side represents dark, cold, wet, still, sinking, unknown, and the other side, light, hot, dry, moving, rising, known. And they're always relative. There isn't a distinct line separating them. They're going one into the other. They come, the sun comes out and then the cloud comes in and on it goes. It's always relative. This is the picture of yin yang.
Mm-hmm. So let's take a look at that, because people will often call an object yin or yang, but you can't. You can only talk about it, as Gayla said, in relation to something. So if we look in the upper left-hand corner at this lake in the mountains, is the water, the lake, yin or yang in relationship to the mountains? We had to turn you all off, so you can't answer the question.
There'll be a test.
Right. So, well, in this case, the water is still. Remember, still was one of the meanings of yin. And the earth is holding up the water. So we would say that the water is yin and the earth is yang, because the earth is doing something, okay? But in the lower right hand, you can see that the river is moving through the mountains, right? So
it's got energy, it's energetic,
right.
It's active,
right.
Highly active.
Right. So is the water yin or yang in relationship to the earth? Think about it for a second.
He's raising his hand. Okay, I know you know.
So in this case, the water's yang because it's moving and the earth is still. However, there's a lot of other relationships here that, because...
The grass growing.
The trees.
And the trees, those are in motion, in life and uprising. So that's yang. And the rocks in the foreground here are very still. Those are yin.
Right.
What about the sky, Barry?
The sky is yin, but the clouds are yang because they're moving through the sky.
There you go.
Right. And actually they're yang in relationship to the earth also, because the earth is still.
And if there's wind, what's that?
That's going to be yang, isn't it?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. So this is an amazing, I love this picture. Gayla found this. So normally yin and yang, the yin line is a broken line. There's a hole in the middle, and the yang line is a solid line because the Chinese could only paint black on white, right? So here, the white is yang, the black is yin, okay? And you notice how it's flowing in a spiral. It's a double coiled helix, like DNA flowing up into the sky, into the Tao, right? Okay. And this is what's really going on. This is what the symbol really represents. It's an abstract symbol. You can put anything, any object or any idea or concept into either side, okay? And discover how that's going to relate to some other aspect of life. And it's moving through time. So these lines in the I-Ching that are actually representing an energy through time. It's as if they're spread out in front of you and they're going through time and you're climbing that ladder through time, okay? Now, the symbol is actually a fractal equation, meaning that it generates reiterating patterns. And if you look at your life, you'll see that your life is a series of reiterating patterns. The objects, the people, the story may look a little different, but the underlying principle keeps repeating itself. Okay?
This is a good time to remind everybody that what we're doing today is like a trailer to a movie, okay? We're just glossing over the top. In the first wisdom and divination, the first level of the course Barry will be teaching, you'll see a lot of these slides again, only we'll be going into them in much, much more depth. And you'll really, then they'll really have much more meaning to you.
Right.
Today is just a taste of what's to come.
So one more thing about this slide is that in the course, I'll talk about how DNA and the I Ching have the same structure. They're both equations that are describing how life evolves. Okay, the I Ching is the spiritual evolvement, the DNA, the physical. Okay,
and of course the yin yang is not flat like it looks here.
Right.
It's just
no, it's round like here.
Yeah.
Okay, so these lines are converted. The symbol itself is converted into lines. Okay, and normally a broken line is considered yin and a solid line is considered yang. And then in the I Ching, there's a development of the number system to increase the number of symbols. So the 2 lines are turned into 3 lines, and then the 3 lines are combined. It's called a trigram. We'll talk a lot about those. And then those 3 lines are combined into what's called a hexagram. And that's the main symbol in the I Ching for those of you who have never seen this before. Okay, so that's the symbol that's used to do the reading when you do a divination. Okay, but it's made up of the other 2 symbols. So the divination ends up being a combination of all of that once you learn how to use it.
And these lines are always changing, just like I was saying, the yin goes into, it overtakes the yang, and the yang overtakes the yin, and it's these symbols express that. It's really a phenomenal system. So now when you see the symbol somewhere, I hope you'll know that it means more than what most people think it means. It's not just decorative.
Okay, so there are so many ways to do divinations with the I Ching because it depends on synchronicity. That's why Carl Jung liked the I Ching so much. He wrote the foreword to the first really good translation of the I Ching in English by Wilhelm. Okay, and so Professor Lin teaches the 6-coin method, which is very simple and direct. Most people who do I Ching use a 3-coin method, which is more complex. So I'll teach that in the class too. And then the traditional method was yarrow stalks. I think we have a picture of that.
We do. That's all right.
Okay.
We'll
And so in the level 2 of the training, I'll teach that because that's very meditative. And the more meditative you are when you do this, the better your answers are going to be. Okay. But I'm also going to teach you, and that's the real purpose for this, my courses, is to teach you how to do the I Ching, how to do a divination without using coins, without using stocks, and even without using the book. Just learning how, based on various factors like time and events and questions, how to turn all that into a reading and look at the energy and the story based on what you know about the symbols and actually do a divination and knowing whether it's auspicious or inauspicious. And you can do the whole thing without a book, all on your own.
And here we're talking about level 1, level 2,
and level 3.
And level 3. And these are courses that Barry's going to be teaching, which we will explain more at the end of this presentation.
Today we're going to teach you a no-coin method that's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the stocks, okay? These aren't real yarrow stocks, though. They don't look
no,
like
because yarrow stocks, the first
They're
yarrow
kind of,
stocks I ever got, I went out and picked by the side of a river. Yarrow does grow wild in California where I used to live. But these are obviously man-made as opposed to wildly grown, but they work. It's just how many is
50 yarrow stalks, yeah.
Yeah, 50 stalks.
Right, and it's a very long process, about 20 minutes for a divination.
You can buy this kind on the internet for about $22, I think, when I looked.
So
Or go
today,
pick your own.
Today we want to tell you how to formulate questions, because you'll see when you ask a question, the wording is so important. Okay, and you need to go into a meditative state when you you need to connect to the synchronicity, which means you have to get out of your head into your heart. Okay, and we're going to teach you a very simple way to understand if a line or a hexagram is auspicious or inauspicious. So right away, when you do the divination, you'll know whether or not the energy is favorable or unfavorable to you. Okay,
Whether you should go forward or stay still.
and because you'll know the auspiciousness and inauspiciousness of each line, and that's through time, you'll know when to be ready for the good and the difficult. Okay? So, well, Gil already said that about the 3 upcoming classes. Okay. So, that's your slide.
Okay, so you want to carefully formulate your questions, because the universe is always listening, always listening. And I can't tell you enough that since the 60s, when Barry and I both got onto this path, how many times the synchronicity has been so phenomenal. There's absolutely no way that you could just call it a coincidence. The universe is listening. And by the way, I think we already sent you a link to a book called E-Square. It's a wonderful little book about some exercises you can do, simple exercises to prove to yourself that the universe is listening. And I'll just tell you, one of those exercises, about halfway through the book, the woman who wrote it, Pam Grout, she quoted Hicks,
Abraham Hicks.
Abraham Hicks.
Right.
And Abraham Hicks said, it's as easy to manifest a castle as a button. And I took that to heart. And I thought, okay, I had a car in mind. A friend of ours in New York has a car that I fell in love with. And and she was kind of considering that she might sell that car, maybe. But she didn't need to sell it. And so for me, you can manifest a castle as easily as a button. And I made and so you're supposed to hold your thought in your mind, and the universe is going to show up within 48 hours and give you what you're asking for. So I said, okay, I want this friend to drive here to Arizona in her car and give us the car. She's going to give it to us. Well, guess what? It didn't happen. But guess what did happen? Within fewer than 48 days, a different friend from California drove here with her beautiful car in our driveway, and out of a clear blue sky, gave us her car. I did not ask for it. I didn't hint, nothing. In fact, she said before she came here, she said, I'm coming to see you and I want to give you my car. So the universe, and actually this car that we've got now is really better for us for various reasons than the car I had in mind. The universe, you don't always get what you want, but you always get what you need. And however, the universe is always listening. And by golly, that's just one example out of, we could do a whole course just on synchronicities. So you want to be very careful on how you word your questions, and your attention, your intention, your sincerity, and your focus are the keys. Then you just look up to the sky, because that's, a good symbol for the I Ching and the universe and everything else, remember? And so you breathe in the energetic of the universe, and then you let it go back out, breathing your intention out, breathing in all possibility, exhaling out with all kinds of confidence and connection, feeling connected, asking the universe for its perfect help, and having your heart open to receive relevant answers. And when something wonderful happens, even if it's a little tiny thing, like you're writing a word on a paper and that word is spoken on the radio, that's a very small synchronicity. And most people would just say, ah, that's a coincidence. No, no, no. That's the universe giving you a clue. And it's to be celebrated as a miracle, and miracles happen. And the more you tune into them and respond to them, the more the universe responds to you, because you're not dissing it. Okay.
That's right. That's so important. And so, let me see.
Oh, this is simple.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does my car need gas? Well, doesn't your car always need gas? Always. Even if the tank's full, your car needs it, right? So that's just to be careful of the way you word your questions. Does my car have enough gas to get me from here to where I'm going? That's a different question. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, let me go back, actually. Well, let me wait a second. Okay, yeah, now let me go back. Okay, we'll go here. So, with the I Ching, eventually, if you take all 3 levels, you'll learn how to ask yes and no questions of the I Ching to get it like a definite answer. But when you read I Ching books or learn about the I Ching normally, you'll be told that you cannot ask a yes or no question. You can only ask qualitative questions. Like, what is the nature of the situation that I'm in or I'm going into? How should I respond, or how should I act, or in this situation? What's the best course of action for me to take? What would be the best time to do something? Okay. What will be the outcome of this situation? I mean, you can ask questions like, what would the weather be tomorrow or next week? And actually, it's pretty accurate. So you can ask very mundane questions, emotional questions, relationship questions, spiritual questions. There's really no limit to the kind of questions that you can ask. But you just have to word it in a way that you're looking for a quality and not a yes or no answer. And so in the beginning, of course, you're going to be reading, and I'll get into that, what it tells you in these different translations of the I Ching. And the translations can be quite different. There's so many of them because there's so many possibilities of the way to translate the I Ching. So when I use the books, I actually use more than one book. But I depend more on Karcher's book than any other one. Okay, so we're going to learn the no-coin method. It's really simple. We said that you didn't need to get a book for this class, and you don't. But if you want to do a divination, you have to have a book. Okay, so
and not a Kindle book.
Yeah, Kindle books don't work for this. A Kindle book could work if you're throwing coins or using some other method, but not for this method. Okay, unless you've got a very precise finger.
No.
Right?
Even then.
No, it's not good. By the way, we started about there, so we still have half an hour.
Okay. Great.
Okay. So what you need to do is formulate your question. Okay. And write it down on paper. Make sure that you write it down on paper.
Because the universe knows how to read.
Right. It can listen, it can read your mind, of course.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
because your mind is the universe. So it's all there. So you're going to formulate your question. Then what you're going to do is look up at the sky, and you're going to do a meditation. Now, many of you probably meditate already if you're on my list. So the simplest way to do a meditation, and we'll do a little bit of it today, is the inhale-exhale method. That's just a way of, well, really, we're going to do mindfulness, okay? In Professor Lin's training, we do the inhale-exhale method, which is a little more complicated. And we have other ways of going into meditation. Today, we're just going to go into mindfulness, which is very simple. In fact, we're going to practice it right now, just for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. So just make yourself comfortable wherever you're sitting, okay? And sit as straight as you can. You can close your eyes or leave them a little bit open, which is actually better. But let your eyes go into, don't focus on anything with your eyes. Let them go into a wide focus. And then just become aware, without control, of your breathing. Giving up control, just being aware of your breathing. And as you're aware of your breathing, feel your body expand and contract with each breath. Aware of your breathing as a witness, not involved, just watching. Always bringing your attention back to your breath, letting any thoughts, feelings, emotions just float by like clouds in the sky. And now just gently bring yourself back into the room you're sitting in, feeling your body against the chair, your feet on the ground, wiggle your toes. Gradually open your eyes, shake your body a little bit. Even if you're sitting, you can shake a little bit. Stretch. And just feel yourself back in the room. Okay, good. So now, after you do that, then you ask the universe to answer your question. You can translate the universe into any words that or image that you use to describe the whole, God, goddess, whatever it is. Okay, whatever
The
your
Tao,
whatever your religion or metaphysical belief is, you just use that.
Great
Okay?
Spirit.
Or you can ask the gods of the I Ching. Okay. So, because, you know, in a shamanic practice, everything has a god controlling it in some way, right? So you open your heart to receive the answers. You ask the question out loud, okay? Now you've got the book in front of you. Staying in meditation, just flip the book open. It's going to open to the perfect random page. It always does. It hasn't got a choice. Okay. I mean, we can tell you so many synchronicity stories that will just blow your mind as they do ours.
Maybe we should do a whole
class on synchronicity stories.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're so amazing that.
If you're not convinced by then.
Yeah. And so now you have your book open, and it's going to open on a page that's somewhere within the explanation of one of the hexagrams. Okay. So this is Alfred Wong's book. I like this book a lot. And evidently he has rewritten it for this 10th anniversary edition, taking out, well, we have a friend who was on last week who actually met him at Esalen and talked to him in the hot tub.
Back in the 70s.
Yeah. And he told our friend that he'd rewritten it and taken out all of his own opinions. And he's such a beautiful writer. You can see that his heart is so pure. You know, there's so much heart in the way he writes. And he really tries to explain the Chinese characters more than anybody but maybe Stephen Karcher. But Stephen Karcher's writing is more cut and dried. And this is really beautiful. Okay. So when you open the book, you may not end up on this page. You know, you could end up on a page like this. Okay. But you want to come back to a page like this. That's the beginning of the reading. And it's going to have the symbol. Okay. It's going to have the symbol for that particular hexagram. And then Alfred Wong, he describes the name and the structure, and he goes into all kinds of information about the divination itself, the 4 Chinese characters that King Wong made the meaning of this hexagram, and then a lot of different additions that Confucian, supposedly Confucius, but mostly Confucian followers have added on to this, okay? And you'll also come to a page in which is what's called the Yao text. So, and I'll explain that later, okay? And so Yao is, these are the 6 lines, okay? 1 through 6, except that with Chen, there's a 7. If you get all 9s, there's a reading, special reading.
So this is a little complicated and
Yeah.
might not be making any sense at all. One thing, or maybe a lot of sense, or a lot of no sense at all. But anyway, one thing I want to say about Yao text, which Barry explained to me, Yao is the container for the energy. It's the container for the energy. So if you understand that, I think that makes some sense of it.
This is the next slide, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Barry, would you explain, like, if you see something that says haughty dragon, there is regret. What does that mean when you're talking about dragons to modern people? What does that mean?
What it means is that you've ended up in a science fiction story, fantasy.
I should have known better than to ask.
Yeah, well, you know, the dragons are so important in Chinese culture, right? And the dragon represents the ruler, okay? So, and this is Chen, and Chen is the ruler in some way because it's all yang lines. It's the energy that's creating everything, okay? It's called the creative. Okay, so these lines, there's a special meaning for each line. When you do a normal divination, actually one or more of the lines in the divination is going to be a line that's dynamic. It's going to switch from what it is to something else, to the
From yin
opposite.
to yang, or from yang to yin.
And that's the one you normally read. But since you're doing this method, what I'm suggesting is that you read through everything in a meditative state, and you let your intuition just pick up the things that have meaning to you. Now, if you look at haughty dragon, there is regret. A state of abundance cannot last long. Well, this is all yang lines. So there's been so much activity, so much abundance that's collected because that hexagram, Chen Chen, that's money, money, okay? Or so in Chinese, okay? So how long can that go on? Remember, it's a book of changes and it's circular, right? It's about ups and downs.
And if you think of the rock stars just as an example, when they get so much money and so much fame, what happens to them? Most of them. What happens to most of them? They catapult down a rabbit hole with drugs and addictions and things that just pull them right down to the bottom, and sometimes we go out of life even.
That's right. In fact, you could think of this as burning your candles at both ends, because both ends of the trigram are hot, of the hexagram. So it's like you're burnt out by this time and you're in regret, okay? So you see how easy it is to figure this out?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, did you see that? He's going now.
So read everything and let your intuition pick out what has meaning for you, okay?
And come to the class and Barry will explain it much better.
Okay, so when you interpret a hexagram, you're gonna look at the reading in the book. That's the hexagram reading. I'm gonna teach you in the courses about how to use the combinations of I'll teach a little bit today actually, to use the combinations of the lines in the Yao to decide what's auspicious and what's not auspicious, okay? There'll be many relationships between the lines and the trigrams that you'll be able to use to understand. Now, we don't have a changing line today, so we're just going to forget about that. And in the program, I'll actually teach about how each line has like a rank. It represents some part of society, and I'll be teaching about how the different symbols all interact with each other, including the 5 phases, which are 5 elements, because that's going to be a really important part of understanding the reading. In fact, in the level 3, you'll also learn how to combine Chinese astrology with I-Ching to get the yes and no answers. So I just randomly chose these hexagrams, okay? So look at number 63 on the left. It's called already fulfilled, Gigi. Gigi means that you've completed your meal, you've double completed your meal, okay?
The rock stars.
Right, okay?
Yeah.
So if you look at the first line, you can see that it's yang. And the Yao, the space that it's in, is the first Yao. And now, if you think about it, when you initiate something, and this would be the initiation, because time moves, I didn't say this, time moves from the bottom of these symbols, no matter what symbol it is, time moves from the bottom of the symbols up through the lines. Just like I said, when you're walking through the lines, that's time, isn't it? So time is moving from the bottom. We have 15 more minutes.
No, you don't.
Really. Yeah, we do, because we didn't start till then. Okay.
Gotta talk about the classes.
We will. So the line, the energy is moving up. Okay. So the first line, it's initiating, it should be yang, because what's the first thing? Taking action. You take action, and then there's a space between the next action. So that's yin, because space is yin. Okay. Then the next action. Okay. Then the space, the next action, and the space. Okay. So that means that if you have this sequence of lines, yin, yang yin, yang yin, yang yin, that's appropriate. That's describing what the most ideal sequence should be. So all the lines are auspicious. Whereas if you start with a yin line, well, that's out of harmony with an initial start. Okay? And then you go to the action, that's out of harmony. And then back to space, and then back to act. These are all out of harmony. They're inauspicious. Okay? And this one is not yet fulfilled. It's all inauspicious. Okay? Wei Ji means an empty stomach, basically. Okay? And then joyful. Okay? Dui. So I just picked this so you can see how we do this, how I choose. So you can see the first line is yang, and over here on the left, if the first line is yang, it's auspicious, right? The second line is yang. Well, that's inauspicious because the second line should be yin, okay? The third line is yin, so that's inauspicious because the third line should be yang. And the fourth line on joyful is yang, but it should be yin, so it's inauspicious. Well, the fifth line is yang, and it should be yang, so it's auspicious. And the sixth line is yin. It should, yeah, it's yin, yeah. And it should be yin, so it's auspicious, okay? So this trigram, joyful, which combines dui, and dui means joyful, among other things like completion, okay? And harvest, okay? It's doubled, the energy's doubled, okay? Joy is doubled. So you would think that this is kind of on a cusp, right? It's neither auspicious nor inauspicious. It's in the middle. But you have to be very careful when a trigram like dui, which is these three lines at the bottom, yang, yang, yin, and then yang, yang, yin again, okay? That's joy doubled. Remember, we're in a circular system, so if you get too much joy, that's not good. So
it could be manic.
It could be, that's right. It could be definitely manic. And so, and the opposite of manic is depressive. So it could go either way, you see, okay? So you have to be careful with a trigram like this. And eventually you'll learn how to look at each line separately and decide if they, based on your question, based on what you're asking, whether that's an appropriate sequence of energies to go through, okay? I hope that makes sense. You can ask questions when we go in the Q&A, and I'll come back to the slide, okay? Okay.
So, the I Ching can seem mysterious and difficult, and so it is, until you learn how to crack the codes. And the more code cracking you learn, the more intriguing and powerful it becomes. And our classes that Barry is going to be teaching are designed to crack the codes. And in the first class, they're simple, easy, fun, but always profound. And as it goes on further, they get deeper and deeper. You get into deeper and deeper code cracking, and it gets more and more profound. It's really quite exciting. So you can attend individual classes. We have 3 levels, or we have a package course, and we have special offers for you today. So.
Okay, and after we show all these options, we'll stay here for questions and answers. Okay, so this is the level 1 course, Wisdom and Divination. It's going to be 6 hours long, 3 2-hour classes, because I think on the internet you can't spend 6 hours in a classroom like you can in a classroom, you know. And
Saturday mornings.
Well, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, and another Saturday morning. Okay. So I'm going to teach you how to understand the structure of the I Ching and how the Qi really moves. And you'll learn the 6-coin method. You'll learn much more deeply about how to use the auspicious and inauspicious lines and hexagrams to do the readings. Okay. We'll really get into refining your questions so that you really do get the answer that you want, okay? We're gonna read the energy of the divinations beyond Chinese culture. As I said before, the I Ching is culturally Chinese. Our culture is very different. I've lived in a number of cultures, and I can tell you the first time I lived in another culture like for a really long time, which was 2 years
In
for being
India.
in India. I thought I could become Indian. I was going to stay there actually and become Indian, and I got like a permanent visa, and the mind is so different. There's no way I could become Indian, you know. So there's no way that if you're not Chinese, you can become Chinese. So you really need to learn to do this based on the energy and the every symbol has a meaning as part of a story. You can create a story around every symbol once you know the energy. And when you combine that energy with your question, you can make a story out of it. It's just like, shamans look for omens. So something happens in the environment, and then they translate that metaphor into meaning for themselves or another person. This is going to be the same. In fact, when we get to level 3, you'll see you'll actually learn to use the I Ching that way.
The more in tune you get with the universe, and the universe is listening to you, and there's a real relationship established, the more you can trust what the universe brings to you. And it really does get tremendously profound. And that's what the shamans do. They're in communication with the universe.
That's right. The 8 trigrams make up the Bagua, and that's a medicine wheel. Just like for Native Americans have a medicine wheel, the Bagua is a medicine wheel. So you'll learn about that. And you're also going to learn how to trust your intuition. That when it says trust the I Ching, it really means trusting your intuition. We'll do meditations and exercises so you'll gain more trust of yourself. It's about self-trust, isn't it? Self-confidence. Okay. And in every class, we're going to do divinations. And so over the 6 hours, I will help everybody in the class with at least one of their divinations. The best way to learn is by doing. And I'll spend some time also with the history of the I Ching and tell you some I Ching stories. Okay. There's even one I Ching horror story I'll tell you.
I'm going to have to say goodbye right now. I have another engagement that I have to run to. So been great being with you, and I'll see you later.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so now in the second class, of course, we're going to deepen your understanding of the structure and the movement. And we're going to do much more complex divinations with 3 hexagrams. So you can get more profound answers. We'll be looking at little details in the reading, especially the 5 phases: fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. And also you'll be learning like many, many, many meanings for each of the trigrams. Okay. And you're going to learn how the energy moves between the trigrams within the hexagrams. Okay. And, with the I Ching, a lot of people think that the divination is kind of confounding when they look in the book. So I'm going to teach you how to get past that so you can actually interpret really clearly. And again, you're going to receive personal help on at least one divination. Oh, and those of you who end up having to watch the recording, every class will be recorded. I will spend time with every person who watches the recording, so they get all their questions answered. I'll do that live, okay, with them. So they get all their questions answered and get help with a divination, okay, or more than one maybe. The third level, I Ching mastery. So we're going to crack the most complex codes and integrate them all. And we're going to be using Chinese astrology with the I Ching. We're going to be learning the Meiwa and the Najia methods. So you'll be able to take something that happens in your life and actually turn it into a reading, or you can take the time of day when someone asks you a question or you have a question and turn it into a reading. You can take words out of a question and turn them into a reading. You can take someone's name let's say someone's going to go to work for a company, you could take their name and the name of the company and actually do a reading on that, okay? You're going to really get much more deep with your intuition, okay? So that you can understand the time and the essence of the story, and you'll be able to do timing. You'll be able to know not only what's going to happen, but when it's going to happen, okay? Now, in this class, I have a package for this class, and it doesn't make sense to take this class without the package. That's going to come with 3 hours of personal mentoring so you can really become a master, okay? So here's the levels. So each of the levels 1 and 2 are $99, okay? Now, the students in the BT program are actually paying $270 a day for each of their training days, which is 6 hours. So, but this is online. It's the first time I'm doing it. So I've reduced that normal cost to $171. Okay. But today, within the next 24 hours, I'm going to only charge $99 for these classes, for a 6-hour class. One of my friends, a person in the program, told me I was kind of crazy to do that. But, you know, I really want to teach this. I love teaching. And I'm hoping that more people get this. So the third level, well, that's a 5-hour class, okay? So that would be like $1,080, I think. I'm only doing it in the program, okay? So wait, 10 hours, 450. That would be 450 in the program. So I'm only charging $369 for the normal price if someone buys it separately. But it doesn't make any sense to, because you have to take level 1 and 2 to do level 3. So I put together this package, which is 22 hours of class time plus 3 hours of mentoring, which based on the prices I've shown you here is worth $1,251. So that's based on the $99 and $369 plus the mentoring, which is worth $540. I normally charge $180, okay? So in the next 24 hours, that's $759, okay? If you can't attend a class, really, they will be recorded. We're not going to forget anymore to do recordings. And you will get time with me live to go over all your questions. And that'll be in addition to the 3 hours of personal mentoring. I'll spend some time with you because the people on, who are doing it live get the 3 hours of personal mentoring. So if you do the recording, you'll still get the 3 hours of personal mentoring plus some time with me, okay? Now, there's also payment plans. When you go to the website to enroll, you'll find a monthly payment plan. And there's a special price, a special plan there for graduates. I reduced the price even more for graduates because the graduates have had some of this already. Okay. Plus, they put a lot of money into our program, and I think they deserve to get a break. So, when I learned from Professor Lin, this is for the graduates really. When I learned from Professor Lin, I took his class for 27 years. And often, especially in the beginning, the first 10 years, he just kept repeating the same class over and over again. And unless someone asked him a question, then of course he would go off and answer the question and that would change the class, right? And you learn something new maybe. But the reason I can teach all this stuff is because I repeated the same information over and over again. It's the Chinese system and Indian system of learning, okay? I just kept repeating it over and over again. And that's really what you have to do. And Professor Lin never gave anybody a break on cost, ever. So that's my spiel about the classes. I hope some of you take advantage of this really great deal. And we're going to go into Q&As. Okay, so now I need to come out of the presentation so I can unmute you all. Well, maybe I can do it here. Let me see. Yeah, I can unmute you right here. Okay, everybody unmuted. Now, if you're, an echo. Somebody has this sound to their speaker. It might be echo. You can yourself, okay? Each person can mute themselves on the window, the little picture window, or down in the lower left-hand corner. If you're not going to ask a question, go ahead and mute yourself. Otherwise, I'll have to mute everybody individually. Okay, that's okay now. Okay, good. Okay, go. Well, no. Okay, that was Gio. I just muted him. I can see him, so he can raise his hand if he needs. Still, somebody. Well, go ahead and ask. Anybody ask a question? Okay.
Hello. Oh, hi. This is Denise. Can I ask you about the course and
It's Moy.
are they the same or how?
You know, Moy, I can't understand you.
Okay. Mute me.
I'm trying to. All of a sudden, I just lost the mute the window where I can everybody. What happened? Let me try this again. Okay, let me find Moy. Okay, I muted Moy. Okay, so let's try now. Go ahead and ask me a question.
Hi, this is Denise again. Can you hear me?
Denise, I can hear you fine, yes.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about the Open Center course and your course and how they different or are they the same? Because I was taking the Open Center one.
First of all, the Open Center course is not happening.
Okay.
The Open Center, we had year one scheduled with the Open Center and then they canceled.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so,
Yep.
but, and this is for the graduates. So there were people here probably in year 2 or 3. I teach most of, especially levels 1 and 2 in the program and some of level 3. I don't go as deep as I'm going to go in this program because there wasn't enough time.
Okay.
To do that. And it was too spread out. So this will be a much more intense and much deeper program than the program that was at the Open Center. So that's why Gayla and I are trying to take all of our classes online.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll get the whole program online at some point. It's going to take a little while because it takes time to build these classes, you know.
Right.
But yeah, so this program is going to be deeper, more intense, and unfortunately, you won't be able to take it at the Open Center.
Well, this is good information.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm thinking about it. You said you have 24 hours to sign up for the course and you just go back to the website to do it?
Yeah, 24 hours for the discount.
From today. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how many of you people are online a lot, you know, but when marketers do their marketing online, they always give you this deadline. Okay.
But this is good, so I can at least think about it. And you said the I-Ching that you recommend is which one?
That's Dr. Alfred Wong's. It's called The Complete I-Ching, and it's by Alfred. Wong is spelled Huang.
Okay.
You know, in the emails that we sent you, there's a link so you can get it.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. I'm going to check that out. The course is really good, and I'm really fascinated, so I'm just letting you know. Thank you.
Well, wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have any other questions afterwards, you can always contact me. What's that?
Okay, thanks.
Barry, can you hear me?
Yeah. I can.
Barry?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can.
Okay.
Oh, great. I don't know whether you're hearing me on the phone or whether you're hearing me
on the microphone.
microphone.
So we may get a little echo.
Well, it was better when you first started talking. Now it's a little bit doubled.
Okay. I'm
gonna mute my phone
and see if
you can still hear me. Say yes or no in 3 seconds.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, great. Yeah, I remember some of what we learned in New York, and I was doing Euro sticks for a while, and since I've moved down to Asheville, I can't find my Euro sticks, I can't find my books, I can't find anything hardly. I'm looking for a frying pan that I'm, so, it's only been 8 years. So yeah, I'm really interested, especially if you're giving a discount and a payment plan. I found today very, very interesting. I would say that I have already learned something that I didn't know before. I don't know exactly what that is, but yeah, I'm going to go to the website and figure it out.
Okay, if you have any problems, just let me know.
Whoops, I can't hear you except
the cost for graduates is $608.
Okay. And there's a payment plan involved?
Yeah, there's a payment plan there too, for the graduates also. And
Okay.
yeah, essentially for the graduates, I'm really just charging for the mentoring and about less than $100 for the class, whole class. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I'm in.
Great, thank you, Gio. Does anybody else have any questions? I'd love to answer questions.
I did have some, but I don't remember them now.
Well, yeah, I know I'm 75 and I understand not remembering.
I'm a couple years behind, but not many.
Not many, right.
Oh, it was the book at the beginning of the class that had the blue cover.
Oh yeah, hey, let's see, it's right here. Oh, the blue cover.
It's one that you like.
Well, this is the blue cover one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's Dr. Wong. But I think what you're talking about is this one. This is by Stephen Karcher, okay? K-R-C-H-E-R. I think, yeah.
K-O-C-H-E-R.
C-H-E-R. And it's called I-Ching, the classic Chinese Oracle of Change. Now, when I looked on Amazon, I didn't see this particular cover, but the book is there. So there must be a new edition. Okay.
And it's K-O-T-C-H, is that it?
K-A-R.
K-A-R.
Alpha Romeo, Charlie, Kilo, Echo Romeo. You could tell I was in the Navy.
Yeah. K-A-R-C-H-E-R.
Yeah, that's a really good book. I learned a lot from that book, actually.
Okay,
Sir.
great. Thank you.
That sounds like Malcolm.
No, that's
Yes,
me.
it is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hi, Malcolm.
Yeah. So I didn't get to hear Denise. Is this what happened to the open center? Is this in relation to the Feng Shui course?
Yeah, that's in relation to the Feng Shui course. The Open Center canceled the first year.
Huh? Yeah,
Okay.
you can look them.
I'm interested in it all.
The question time. I can ask questions.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the Open Center canceled it all. In fact, I don't like to gossip, but I don't know.
Yeah.
The Open Center is having a lot of issues, I think.
Open
So,
center.
Yes.
Yeah.
So listen, I gotta run. I'm gonna contact you through email, sir.
Okay, yeah, send me an email. We can always talk on the phone too, okay?
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I'm a Tufo.
Be well. Any more questions?
I get these all the people on should read it.
Hey, I have a question. This is Constantina in New York.
Yeah, hi, Constantina.
Hi. It's just a technical question about doing the reading, formulating your question and reading the way you taught us a little bit about how to read without the coins. Is it possible, if you feel like you're not getting a clear answer, to ask it again? Or should you just sit with it more? Or is there even an answer to that?
Well, here's what happened to me. When I first started, I asked a question. I'm going to tell you two things actually that happened. I asked a question. I didn't really understand it. It didn't make sense to me. Actually, I didn't like the answer. So that's usually why you can't, it's confusing, okay? Because you don't really like the answer. So, so I threw it again. And then I threw it again. And the third time I threw it, I got number 4.
4. Oh, yeah.
The fool. Right. Okay. Right. Yeah. Well, we've both gotten that probably a number of times. So the I Ching will tell you that you shouldn't keep asking this question.
Okay.
The other thing is, I did ask a question one time about a relationship, and it might have been like 2 weeks later. Nothing had changed that I could see. So I threw this exact same question. I did a divination. I was using 3 coins in those days. And I got exactly the same reading, including the changing line.
Wow.
Now, the odds of that are something like 100 million to 1.
Wow.
There's actually a scientist, Larry Schottmeyer, who wrote a really good book on the I Ching, mathematician, and he figured that out. He also figured out that if you use the yarrow stocks and you do enough divinations, so you can do a statistical analysis. Again, look at the camera, sorry. If you do enough divinations to do a statistical analysis, you actually get a bell-shaped curve.
Wow.
Now, if you're not a statistician, that might not mean anything to you, but as a scientist, that's astounding. That the Chinese figured out a system to get a bell-shaped curve, which is the perfect relationship in statistics. When you're measuring a large cohort, you should get a bell-shaped curve as the perfect picture. Okay? So that's truly amazing.
Okay.
Did I answer your question? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, well, so yeah, I'm just to tweak it a little bit. So, no, maybe I'm confusing myself. Maybe you could just ask the question again, but a different way, like, or is that going down the same rabbit hole?
Wait a second. Something happened to my computer here. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I lost the. I don't know what you guys are seeing, but.
Something that says Twitter.
I'm going to stop the share.
It's okay.
Okay.
You have stopped screen share.
There's actually one more slide, so I'll put it up again, I guess. I don't know what that Twitter thing is. Here it is. Cancel. Okay. Okay, so go ahead and ask again.
Oh, so suppose you have an issue and you say like, what is the nature of such and such? And then you're not really sure that you understand it. Could you ask it again and say like, what would be the outcome if I did such and such? Or is that really going in?
You can refine the question.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's
right.
Okay. If you refine the question, or if you realize that you didn't ask it quite the way you should have to get the answer that you're looking for,
okay.
You can refine the question. And sometimes I will do 2 or 3 divinations because the first one will give me more insight, and that gives me another question to ask.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you. That's
You're
good.
welcome.
Thanks. Yeah.
I'm sure there must be more questions. That's kind of what I taught. The auspicious, inauspicious was a little bit complex. No? Okay. Well,
yeah. I mean, the helping with the lines. That's what I think what I learned today. starting from the bottom and looking to see if that line is yin or yang.
Right, right. If the energy of the line matches the time, the timeline, you know, matches the period of time that it exists in. That's called the yao. So the period of time the line exists in is called the yao. And that can be any time. It could be a second, a minute, a day, a week, a year. You know, you have to decide that based on your question. So the yaos are kind of like the houses in astrology. If you ever do astrology, you'll know there's 12 houses, right? But here we have 6 houses. And they're called yao.
That makes sense.
Okay, well, I hope to see some of you in my classes. If you
Hey, all of you.
really, if you can't do it within the 24 hours, contact me and I'll just work something out with you. If you really want to take the class, I want to make sure you do. Okay?
Thank you. This was really good.
Thanks, Barry. Good to see you again.
Hey, you're welcome.
Very
We're saying goodbye. Oh, let me go back to, I'm going to go back for a second. I'm going to go back to screen share because it is out.
Bye, everyone.
Started screen share.
What happened? Keynote went away. It's right there.
Bye-bye.
Okay, because there's one more slide. There you go.
Ah.
I think we got everybody covered there. Okay.
Love you.
Bye.
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 You have stopped screen share.
Okay, I'm going to end the meeting now. Thank you for being here. It was really a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Leave me